Aggressive cost cutting from FedEx is not a good sign, and 2 lawsuit stories. Let's talk about it. Coming up next. FedEx said Tuesday that its quarterly earnings and sales fell off from a year ago and warned of ongoing weakened demand, but said its aggressive cost-cutting measures were softening the blow. From Adam Stern, he is quoting an article from CNBC talking about FedEx earnings sink as soft demand persists. Now, you might recall that I've already made basically a video about this, and I have, but the reason I'm doing this video is because I got a lot of pushback from that video from a lot of people who said FedEx has gone through tough times before, and they always came and kept sponsoring in NASCAR. So instead of just going through this point by point and detail by detail, the thing that jumps out here is aggressive cost cutting in that particular statement from Adam Stern, right? So if they're aggressively cost-cutting, let's look at the 3 most likely scenarios, or at least 3 scenarios that could happen. The first scenario, of course, being they stop sponsoring altogether. That is the doomsday scenario for Joe Gibbs Racing and for Denny Hamlin. They don't want to see Joe Gibbs Racing lose another sponsor like they did with M&M's. That, however, is not what I'm leaning toward. I don't think that FedEx will leave completely, but that is the first scenario. FedEx could leave NASCAR, the sport, completely. What I lean more toward is a partial or half-time sponsorship agenda that FedEx could do with Joe Gibbs Racing going forward. In that particular scenario, Joe Gibbs Racing would only have to find a few other sponsors to sort of fill in those gaps. So they would have a multi-sponsor deal, sort of like they do with Martin Truex with his various sponsors. Also like they do with, Christopher Bell with his various sponsors. So you could see a scenario like that, and I think that one is more likely, and here is why. With a new CEO and a new head of marketing over at FedEx, they want to show the board of trustees, the people who own the stock in FedEx, they want to show them that they are capable, so they can't just do what the previous founder, Frederick Smith, did. They can't just, we're going through an economic downturn, we don't care, we're going to keep spending $26 million or so in NASCAR sponsorship, but they can do both, right? You can stay in the sport and you can still build an ad campaign around it. And we've already seen as recently as this year, there is a Denny Hamlin commercial with FedEx. It actually came out fairly recently. So I do think they still see NASCAR as a key market. So you could do half the season, still do the full sponsorship campaign or advertisement campaign on social media, everything else. You still have the FedEx car on track. But if you cut the sponsorship to half or even less, we saw Coors Miller do this on the 2 car. You still have what you can market around, but you don't have to spend as much money on the particular car itself. I feel like that is a more likely option because obviously they still see NASCAR as a viable sponsorship token. The other one, the third option, is what I would call the wild card option, and this is more or less has been mentioned a lot by fans, and this is the only reason I'm going to mention it because I think it's very problematic from various ways. But that being said, a wild card, a Hail Mary, those things can happen from time to time, so I will mention it. They could go over to 2311 after the 2023 season. 2024, they could go over to 2311. Denny Hamlin takes the 11 with him. This is, of course, the fan theory. And they go and sponsor 2311 because you could possibly get a discount sponsoring 2311. Joe Gibbs Racing is still commanding $26 million for a sponsorship, presumably. Well, you could go over to 2311 and spend less money over there and still get a full season's worth of sponsorship. That is something a lot of fans have thrown out. I find that one problematic because A, Denny Hamlin does not want to fracture his relationship with Joe Gibbs, in my opinion. And B, I don't think that would be good for Toyota overall to sort of put this fracture, this wedge in between the 2 biggest teams that you have as Toyota as a brand, really the only 2 teams you have as Toyota as a brand. So I don't really see that one happen. It's problematic. But that being said, it's a wild card take. That's something that it's not likely to happen, but it could possibly happen because every once in a while something absolutely crazy happens, like the Immaculate Reception, like Franco Harris, like. In no way, shape, or form would anybody draw that up, But it did happen, and it did work. And the reason, of course, I mentioned that is, rest in peace, Franco Harris. Unfortunately, he left us at age 72, so I wanted to throw that in here too. But those are the three scenarios that I see going down over there at Joe Gibbs Racing between FedEx and them. So let me know down below in the comments what you think. Which one of those scenarios seems more likely? And if there's one I forgot about, throw that down there in the comments too. All right, now on to some legal stuff. The Wood brothers were acquitted. They do not have to pay anybody. Apparently, somewhere, I think at Phoenix, they ran over somebody with a golf cart, or somebody got run over with a golf cart. So they said because of what was written on the ticket that you are responsible for your own whatever when you're in the pits. You have to keep your head on a swivel. The Wood brothers are not responsible for the damage caused to that person who was run over by the golf cart or the little whatever they were driving or whatever. So, and the only reason I'm mentioning this is I'm glad the Wood brothers didn't get sued or didn't lose their lawsuit, I should say. And if you're in the pits, keep your head on a swivel. Stop walking around looking at your phone. You're in the pits. There's a lot of moving parts there. Pay attention, because you could get run over. A lot of people are focused on a lot of things. I know even at the local late model level, whenever I'm pushing a car, I got my head down and I'm pushing. I'm not looking around as to where the car is going. So if you're in the pits, pay attention. That's the reason I wanted to mention that one. Okay, and finally, after it seems like a decade of litigation, there has been a resolution in the BK Motorsports lawsuit, and here are the details. This is from Bob Pockrass. Ron Devine and Associated Companies trusts have been ordered to pay $31 million to the trustee handling BK Racing bankruptcy. The money, if available collected, would go to the bank that issued loans, IRS, employees, others still owed money through approved claims of BK Racing bankruptcy. $31 million judgment stems from $6 million BK Racing paid to Ron Devine affiliated trust companies and $11 million in BK debt that trustee claims laws require reimbursement. Judge ruled Devine didn't comply with discovery procedures of financial disclosures, so awarded the full amount and penalties. So yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. BK Racing, hopefully all those people that are owed money get paid. That's all I can say about that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for BK Racing. They overextended themselves, and hopefully that money will go to the proper parties because it just stinks if you get stiffed for money, but that's how it goes in racing sometimes. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you made it this far, feel free to subscribe. It helps out the channel a whole lot, and I really, really appreciate your subscriptions. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate your subscription as well. And if you got a question, a comment, or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section. Try to get to as many of them as I can. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.